Y'all know what it is. Jay Williams, Let's Live Life, and we're back. Coronavirus edition. Still sick. Still trying to fight through it. Can't stop moving. So today we're going to talk on OG Earnie, man. And before we start, a lot of these cases, I look into them. I try to do everything I can to pull up articles, to do this, to do that. The problem with that is a lot of the guys I knew, these lifers, they've been locked up since the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, since before, Google and the World Wide Net and all that stuff became available. So in order for me to find their case logs and their actual information, I've got to know what county they were from, their first name, their last name, their middle initial, roundabout date. And with a lot of these guys, it's hard. Earnie falls in that category, but I swear to you, everything, whether you can believe it, wrap your mind around it, is 100% facts. I met Earnie at Greensville. Earnie was in cell 110. And the reason I met Earnie is because I was doing something, man, and I was trying to get some weed, and I was a couple packs short. And they told me, holler at Earnie. Earnie's in here, and Earnie only deals with white dudes. Now, it wasn't a racist thing as far as Earnie only dealing with white dudes. A lot of the store box guys were like that. I know a lot of black guys that would only store box to white dudes. And I'd be like, damn, you don't even look out for your people? They'd be like, nah, it's too much larceny. They be trying to buck, they ain't trying to pay it back. They trying to argue on what I gave them. Like, I ain't got time for that. They're like, with the white dudes, if you give them something, for the most part, they're pretty thoroughly giving it back. You know what I mean? There ain't no bullshit with them. That was the majority of the store boxes. Earnie was the same way. So I go to Earnie and I tell him, look, I'm trying to get 2 packs. I'll throw you 3 back on Friday. Ernie says, cool. Ernie goes underneath his bunk and pulls out a trash bag full of cigarettes. Says, you just need 2? And I said, yeah, just 2. Puts me on the list. Boom, I roll out. I add that to what I got. And, I get my weed. Well, Ernie would sit out at the table with his cellmate at the time. And his cellmate name was Buddy Lee. I talked about Buddy Lee a little bit before, but I got to get into Buddy Lee's story. Buddy Lee's been locked up since the 60s. Buddy Lee had a savage story, but it ain't messing with Ernie's. So over time, I built with Earnie. And Earnie was a big, thick, brolicky man. Kind of like somebody, he would remind you out of a Westerns. He was old, really old, but still had that big, solid, I can chop wood frame. Slick back, gray hair. He had skin cancers on top of his hands. He had these big, rough calluses on his arms. He had them. And Earnie, for the most part, was the chill dude. Me and Earnie get to talking one day, man, and I don't remember how it came up. But this is what Earnie said to me. Earnie said, Jay, you know the hardest part about skinning a human body? Never expected to have that question asked to me. You know the hardest part about skinning a human body? Threw me for a second. I said, nah, what's that, Earnie? He said, the damn nipple. He said, every time you get to the nipple, it messes up. I said, all right, where's this coming from, man? What are you talking about? So we get into the details of Ernie's case. And I find out that when cocaine first became mainstream, Earnie had a plug. When I mean Earnie had a plug that Earnie could get as much as he wanted. He's a country boy. You drive here, you drive there. There's nobody else out there with it. So Earnie was the main supplier. Ernie's people get word that they're being watched, that they're afraid they're going to get raided, and it's coming back because of Ernie's cousin and Ernie's cousin's wife. They got pulled. Something happened. They never told Earnie they got pulled. Word came through other people's. They got tore off with coke. So now all this pressure and this heat's coming down. These people come to Earnie and they say, look, either you got to deal with them or we're going to deal with you, and then we'll deal with them. Earnie told me he lured them both to his house, said he had a big barn out on his property. He said he got them both in the barn and shot them both in the head. He then proceeded, and this is straight what he told me. And it's way beyond overkill. It's probably way past what he should have done. Maybe it's just a sickness in Earnie or him trying to get a point across to the people he deals with. He said he then proceeded to take both their bodies and hang them upside down in the barn over top of his old Cadillac. Skin them, and they cut their heads off. Said he took the heads, took them to the dude that he was dealing with, showed it to him. Everything was good. Well, police get to looking around. These people have come up missing. They got kids. You know what I mean? There's no parents coming home, so social services involved, the police are involved. Everybody's looking. They come to Ernie's house and they don't find anything. Nothing. They search, they search, they search. A couple months goes by, another detective wants to take another look at it, goes out in the big barn, sees the chains hanging up there, and Ernie, this car he's got, he doesn't really drive. He drives an old truck. Detectives get curious about the car, they pop the hood, and there's blood down inside the hood. From where I guess when he cut him, the blood ran down on the hood and down through the sides. Ernie cleaned the hood off, he never lifted it, and cleaned inside the hood. Just like that, at first Ernie said he was sitting on death row. He said they were going to give him the death penalty. That was all they wanted, was to kill him. He got past that, ended up with, natural life, no possibility of parole. Cool. Fast forward, maybe 30, 40 years, I run into Ernie in prison. Ernie's been in prison now his whole entire life. This man's in his late 60s, maybe early 70s. Like I said, he looked like a damn lumberjack. These big scabs all over him. Ernie proceeds to tell me a story one day that surpasses, I don't know if it surpasses, but was right up there with why he was originally in there. I mean, skinning two people and cutting their heads off, and they never found the people. Ernie even told me himself, he said, I got spots down behind my house that not even animals can get to when I throw them down in them ravines. He said, the only thing that's eating down there is birds. He said, you wouldn't believe me if I told you what I'd thrown down in there and how many people were down in this hole. Ernie would go on to tell me that years earlier, he had a cellie that he was really good friends with. He said him and this dude had been on several compounds together. He said, Jay, to be honest, I looked at this guy more like a brother than I did as a cellmate. He knew everything about me. I knew everything about him. He knew all my demons. I knew all his demons. All of our skeletons that were in the closet had met. Like, we were family, man. Ernie tells me this dude ends up getting sick. He's going up for parole, which is a stressor in itself. The guy goes up, he gets turned down. He gets to go back every 5 years for parole. He's never going to make parole, but Ernie's like, he gets sick. And he doesn't want to tell medical because, and I kind of believe this as well, once you find out what's wrong with you is when you start dying. That's what I think. I think that like once you go to the hospital to start getting treatment for something, is generally, if it's bad off, is when you start dying. I think you would have lived longer if you don't go. Well, this guy had the same mindset that I've got. He's not going to the hospital. He's just going to deal with it on his own, and he gets sick. In the months to come, he gets sicker, he gets sicker, he gets sicker. And Ernie said it's just like breaking his heart. He said, I watch this man lay there every day, withering away and dying. He said, I don't know if it was pancreatic cancer. I don't know what it was. He said, but he was dying. Right before my eyes, he was dying. He said, and he come to the terms that he didn't want to die like that. He didn't want to lay there and suffer, and that he wanted me to help figure out how to take him up out of here without it hurting. Along the lines of, am I my brother's keeper? And in Ernie's words, yes, I am. Ernie told him he'd think about it a little bit. They discussed smothering him with a pillow. And the guy was like, nah, I don't want to do that. That's shit, that ain't cool, you know what I mean? That sounds like it's going to suck. Ernie suggested other little things, like a slit on his wrist and then bleeding out. He said, the guy was like, nah, I said, I don't want to feel no pain. So Ernie said he comes in one day and he goes in his cell and he asks him, are you ready? I said, what do you mean, am I ready? He said, are you ready? And he was like, well, what do you got planned? He was like, heroin. And he was like, is it going to hurt? He was like, you're not going to feel anything. He's like, I've gone on the yard, I've gotten a needle, I've got a good amount of dope, and this is enough right here that since you're not a dope user, all you're really going to do is you're going to fall asleep. He said him and the man sat there for a while and they talked. They talked about, hey, remember when this happened? He said, just kind of reminiscing, man, going back and forth about things that had happened while they'd been cellmates, different people in different prisons and good times they had. And then he said the man shed a couple tears and eventually was like, all right, let's do this, man, I'm ready. Ernie said he sat there, he mixed up the dope shot, put it inside the man's arm. He registered it, meaning he pulled it back until he seen blood enter the syringe. He asked him, are you sure you want to do this? And the guy was like, yeah, I don't want to die on their terms. I want to die on mine. Ernie said he pushed the plunger. The man kind of sat up a little bit, looked at him with tears in his eyes, stumbled over to the bottom bunk, sat down, laid down, and within a matter of minutes, he was dead. Ernie said he Walked out the cell, went to the microwave, messed around in the pod for a little bit, came back to his cell, and then went to the control booth and told the guards, hey, I think there's something wrong with my cellmate. I think he's dead. They come in there. Ernie's done wiped the needle off. His fingerprints aren't on it. The guys are. They find him laying there, the needle laying next to him, and he's dead. Now, Ernie told me, and this is crazy just to think, that out of all the things he had ever done in life, that was the one thing that bothered him. Skinning and decapitating his cousin and his cousin's wife didn't bother him. Countless other people that Ernie had talked to me about, that he had killed and thrown down this ravine, didn't bother him. But what bothered him was a mercy kill on someone that he considered to be a friend. As if he didn't consider his cousin a friend, I guess. Ernie has since died. Like a lot of the older guys I knew that did life, I would look into Ernie here and there. I talk to people still to this day that are up Greensville, and everybody tells me the same thing, that Ernie passed away. But it just goes to show you, man, monsters come in all shapes and forms. Young, old, black, white, you never know. Man asked me if I knew what the hardest part about skinning a human body was. Said it was the nipple. Told me he had a ravine back in the hills where he lived down behind his house that even animals couldn't get to. It's a crazy world we live in, man. It's just some of the things you're gonna hear, type of people you'll deal with. Not everybody in there's a bad person, but you got people in there like Ernie that are there for life for a reason. But look, I'm gonna get back to laying in this bed. Just want to show y'all I love y'all. Want to make sure y'all entertained. Are you not entertained? I know you're entertained. But y'all know what this is, man. Jay Williams, let's live life. And to all my real ones, and there are some real ones watching, because y'all still watching me. Salute.